Paganini's duties at Lucca gradually dwindled away between January 1808, when the orchestra was disbanded, and December 1809, when all that remained were his lessons to the prince. Meanwhile, the court moved to Florence following Napoleon's promotion of Eliza to Grand Duchess of Tuscany, and Paganini began to give public concerts in other towns nearby. In Livorno, he said the fate seemed to be against him. He stepped on a nail and entered the theater limping. The candles on his music stand went out as he began to play, and his E string broke, but as he said, I played the concerto on 3 strings and created a furor. Because he often broke strings in concert, subsequently some accused him of doing it deliberately in order to recreate the sort of sensation he had produced in Livorno. It is doubtful that he ever knowingly began a concert with a frayed string. However, since this would have made it almost impossible for him to produce some of his acclaimed effects, such as long glissandos and harmonics. But the Norwegian violinist Ole Bull, who often heard Paganini play and also made his acquaintance, claimed that he did use strings that were for his day unusually thin, precisely in order to enhance some effects. If he did not plan to snap a string in concert, then neither could he have been surprised when it happened. In any case, he almost invariably chose to finish on 3 strings rather than break off playing in order to replace the string of the violin. Even before Paganini settled in Lucca, he had begun to perform pieces imitative of sounds of human passions and natural phenomena. An early example is his Fandango Spagnolo, 1800, perhaps inspired by Farini's Capriccio Stravagante, which mimics the sound made by dogs and cats, fifes and drums. His mimicking of a donkey on stage in Ferrara 1812 nearly precipitated an assault on him by the audience. Paganini travels often for concerts and visits Cesena, Ferrara, Piacenza, Parma, Bologna, Forlì, and other Italian towns. He cannot reserve his art for a few chosen ones and play like Viotti only in palaces and saloons of nobles or the big bourgeoisie. He needs the open spaces of big concert halls with their enthusiastic, sincere, and noisy crowds. As a conductor, Paganini obtained equally brilliant achievements as his violinistic performances. At 9 of March 1809, he conducted from memory Cimarosa's Secret Marriage, arousing the amazement and enthusiasm of the audience. Paganini composes during this time the concert in Re major, opus 6, which reflects the turbulent atmosphere of this time. In autumn 1813, Paganini reaches Milano, who had the most beautiful theaters in the world, La Scala, more than 3,500 places, Conobiana, called also Teatrino because it was tinier, on Corso di Porta Romana, the big theater Carcano, which had the greatest acoustic. There were also Letasio with a more little hall, 2 theaters for marionettes and 1 for dilettantes who performed every Friday. In between 1813-1814, first violinist and conductor at Theatre La Scala was Alessandro Rolla, who had as substitute Cavinati. A letter from Milano published in Allgemeine Musikalische Zeitung from 1814 informs us that Rolla talked there about Paganini as being the greatest violinist humanity ever had. He is also referred to as a wizard. Paganini didn't begin touring outside of his native Italy until 1828. One of Paganini's earlier compositions was Le Streghe, The Witches. The composition is for violin solo and orchestra and is based on a tune that Paganini heard in a performance of a ballet in Milano in 1813. The ballet Il Noce di Benvenuto, The Walnut Tree of Benvenuto, was a revision of an earlier ballet written in 1803 with music by Franz Xavier Süssmayr, a composer most well known for having finished Mozart's Requiem. The tune announces the entrance of the witches in the ballet, hence the name given by Paganini. After an introduction by the orchestra, a tune is played by the soloist with a light accompaniment. A short cadenza for the soloist leads to Süssmayer's theme, which is followed by 3 variations. The first variation has double and triple stops, the second variation pizzicatos, harmonics, and wide leaps, a section in mirror key in octaves, and the third variation played on the G string combined with the double stopped harmonics. The coda of the piece has Paganini round off the piece with yet more fireworks for the violin. In the evening of 29 October 1813, at the Theatre La Scala, after having interpreted the concert in Mi minor from Kreutzer, Paganini played Le Streghe. The fame of the success of this piece surpassed rapidly the confines of Italy. After his concerts at La Scala, Paganini becomes ill again. He experiences a range of severe bowel issues. The same disease that tortured him in Torino forces him to lay in bed for a longer period of time. But cherished friends like writers Vincenzo Monti and Ugo Foscolo or sopranist Giovanni Battista Velluti boosted his spirit. In the beginning of September 1814, Paganini goes to Genova and performs at Teatro San Agostino. In Genova, he holds 5 concerts. From his admirers, we want to mention the young lawyer Luigi Guglielmo Germi, who would become his most sincere and affectionate friend. In 1814, Paganini fell in love with a 20-year-old Angela Cavana, and against the wishes of his parents, the two lovers moved to Parma, where they stayed for a few months. The young woman became pregnant, later giving birth to a child who had already died, and the girl's father denounced the violinist for having seduced his daughter with marriage promises. The age of majority at the time was reached at 21. As a result of the complaint, in May 1815, Paganini was imprisoned in the cells of Ducal Palace. His stays in prison would only last a few days, and Paganini wrote to his friend Germi that a girl who lived with a lot of freedom is not worthy of any trust. From this happening, many untrue rumors spread later, and he got out humiliated with his heart ulcerated. In meantime, Paganini's health is affected. The crisis provoked by various illnesses became more frequent and acute. Only with a lot of care he was able to maintain a relative health to allow him to give concerts and compose. He was also worried about his mother in Genova and his sisters, and he made efforts to support them and take care of them. At the 1st of April 1817, Antonio Paganini, his father, died. After his death in July 1817, Niccolò makes a trip to Genova to see his mother and sisters and end once for all the Cavana subject. He is very affected when his mother becomes ill, and what an explosion of joy when he finds out that she regained her health. Sono tanto felice che mia mamma carississima gode di perfetta salute. In the year 1820, he relocates her from the tiny apartment in which she lived in Vico del Dragone and installs her in a big and lovely apartment in Piazza del Sarozzano. His thoughts always return to his beloved mother.